buddies were like, well, are you going to arrest him for causing the flood to happen? And the cops were like, what are you talking about? And he's like, dude, every time he's in the bar, he gets drunk and he starts going on and on about how he caused the flood to happen.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shoot, Shovel, and Shut Up podcast. At the moment of recording, sorry, Donnie,
I'm Donevan.
And I'm O.T. At the moment of recording, it is 8:10 in the morning on a Saturday.
It's about 50 degrees in the shop.
Oh, it's less than that. We're blowing. We can see our breath. My guess would be it's around like 30 degrees in here right now.
It's cold.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It was 25 degrees when I got in the car this morning.
Yeah,
outside. So,
but it's never too cold
to record an episode.
A good episode.
That's right.
Shoot, shovel, and shut up.
Who knows? Maybe the cold air will sharpen our wits.
I hope so.
Doubt it. Anyway, hey, so let's jump right into it. You said you got a fun fact.
Yeah. So my fun fact is that did you know it is illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland?
Is it because?
And that is because they are such social animals that if you just own one...
The Switzerland people? They're social animals?
The guinea pigs.
Oh.
If you just own one, it is considered animal cruelty because they get lonely and depressed.
Wow. So to not have a horde of depressed solo guinea pigs.
Yeah, you can have two. You just can't have one.
Really?
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I feel like my fun fact is out of place.
Go for it.
So I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, so I guess this is like one podcast to another, and I'm just scalping facts. But I listened to an episode where he was interviewing a fella who wrote a book after embedding in African cobalt mines. Cobalt, which I still don't entirely understand what cobalt is used in the production of all things software and electronic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, I guess software is not a real physical thing, but computers, right? Phones, all that kind of stuff. It all needs cobalt to operate. And so he went down there and he poked around for a few years and ended up writing a book. I wish I had the book. Phil Braden could put the link in the description below, but I don't know what the book title is. Anyway, this guy was saying that like 99%, if not 100%, of the world's cobalt comes from these slave mines, basically. Like the human conditions, they're called artisan mines, which we hear artisan in the States and we think like handmade, like it's a craftsman type thing. In Africa, an artisan mine just means they don't use tools. Like they don't use power tools. They mine it with their hands, like with their pickaxes.
They use hand tools?
Yeah, they use hand tools. And there's pictures with like pits of people, like thousands of people, and they're like loading stuff into baskets and carrying them out. You know, it's like what we when we grew up in Sunday school and heard stories about the Jews in Egypt,
mm-hmm.
you know, being oppressed and building like the pyramids or whatever. That's like the image that I saw. And I was like, this is modern day slavery. Like they're probably getting paid, but it also probably can feed them one time that day.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, not to just say that China's the only one, you know, benefiting, but a lot of that cobalt's going to China. A lot of those companies that are selling the cobalt are Chinese. And then America is buying the phones. And so my fun fact, which is not fun at all, is that if you ever tweet about oppression using a phone, you are supporting oppression by having that phone.
Got him.
So, I mean, it's just be aware. You know, I think you need to still use the tools that you have to spread awareness for things. But don't be so blind as to when you're sipping your Starbucks, which is not ethically sourced coffee, on your phone, which is not ethically sourced cobalt. Kind of a hypocrite. Anyway.
Nobody can escape it.
No, it's so tough. I mean, you'd have to make your own clothes, live off the grid, eat your own food, and buy nothing from the store.
Well, I wonder how much it would disturb their way of life, the people, you know, mining the cobalt.
Yeah.
If, you know, like Americans went in there or something with machinery,
mm-hmm.
so that they didn't have to do it. It's like, all right, but this is their way of making money and their way of livelihood, and really all they know right now.
Right. Not that that's a good thing, but you're right.
Because it would definitely benefit our economy, and it would mean less
Well-
grueling work for them, but also how much would it disturb their economy of that's jobs
Well, ultimately,
gone?
it wouldn't help us because it would make the phones more expensive because they're able to pay them nothing.
Yeah.
Basically, right? So if there were like a union that would come in, and, or whatever, and if they were able to, if the Africans themselves were able to profit off of the cobalt, it would be very good for them. But we would, we'd take to, the streets saying,
Yeah.
why is our phone now $2,000?
For real.
But
Which I don't think that'd be a bad thing either.
right, if I was buying
Less
a phone,
smartphones in circulation.
oh gosh, what, right? Anyway, hey, before we get too much onto this tangent, we have a very special episode today.
Today we have a guest who is a dear friend of both of us. He is a police officer from the Atlanta area
That's right.
and one of the most insane guitarists and musicians I've ever met.
He, in fact, inspired my mustache, but he doesn't have one anymore. It's kind of sad.
Without further ado, we'd like to introduce David Kolb.
Woo! Yeah! The Babe Kolb! Oh, dude, it could bring it back. It hasn't left.
I can't believe I inspired your mustache.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
You're one of them.
Now, every time I look at that mustache,
you can think of, like,
myself.
yes,
Wow.
absolutely. You should.
That is your mustache, right?
Well, see, here's the thing. I remember when I first met you at Snowbird, and you started growing your facial hair. I thought to myself, I always think that facial hair improves a man's. But when you first did, it was the first time I looked and said, that man needs to shave
It's
everything
understandable,
off.
especially the middle right here.
Yeah. Fun fact about David, he is so Polish that he cannot grow hair in the middle of his lip.
World War II joke there for you.
If you know, you know. That is good. So Polish.
Yeah. He's extremely
Wow.
Polish. David, do you have a fun fact for us?
I did. Mine's more of a story. So,
Okay.
in I think it was Missouri, in 1993. It was the first time anyone was ever charged with the charge of causing a catastrophe. So,
Wait, a human being.
a human being was charged with causing a catastrophe.
Well, what was the catastrophe?
So there's a whole backstory to this. So this guy, I forget his name. I skimmed through this like a week ago, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting."
Yeah.
Basically, he was working on this levee. So the Missouri River runs through this small town, and this levee is the only thing that's keeping this river from not, flooding all the bridges and everything. So he's working on this levee, and then one day he just decides there's a weak spot. I'm just going to leave it. And basically what happened was this massive flood came. It knocked out all the bridges. Nobody died somehow. All the bridges, it submerged a bunch of buildings, and basically it made it to where everyone on one side of the river had to drive 80 miles around to get to the other side.
Wow.
So it was a catastrophe.
Yeah. And so this guy was charged with it because of his neglect of the dam or whatever.
But the way the police found out, so the news people show up to the levee. They're like, "Hey, you're the first guy we see. What happened?" He's like, "Well, I saw this weak spot, and I fixed it, and then I went to the bar and got a drink." They're like, "All right, that's our story." Then about a month later, the cops arrest him for a different charge. He was charged with robbery. And while
So this guy isn't a great dude.
No,
He wasn't just innocent.
yeah. So other backstory, he's been charged with arson before, like 10 years before that.
So this guy very well could have caused the weak spot just to see what would happen.
That's pretty much what happened.
I was feeling bad for him until now. Like,
I was like, this guy's laziness really got to him or whatever.
So it must be pretty hard to keep up with the levee. I don't know if I can blame him, but
Yeah.
I thought he was just lazy.
Yeah, well, so they're interviewing a bunch of his buddies because they're trying to figure out who did this robbery, and his buddies were like, "Well, are you going to arrest him for causing the flood to happen?" And the cops were like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Dude, every time he's in the bar, he gets drunk and he starts going on and on about how he caused the flood to happen." And they're like, "Well,
and he was proud of it."
Yes, and the reasoning he had to do the flood, right? The reason he gave was he wanted to party, go fishing, and have an affair.
And if he flooded the town, there'd be chaos, and he could fish, party, and have an affair.
And it kept his wife on the other side of the river.
Bruh.
There's way easier things.
Yep.
Don't have an affair, first of all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second, if you're going to, don't destroy an entire bridge.
Right.
Well, joke's on him because he got charged with life in prison.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I guess if you were responsible for causing a catastrophe,
Yep.
you are to be held accountable
Yep, I would hope so.
for the catastrophe as a whole.
I would hope
Wow, thank you. That was a good fact. Then we got 2 good historical facts to come on here now.
I need to step up my
so. I like
fact
the guinea pig
game.
one.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to get away from animals.
I mean, to be honest, I understand that, and like every time I sit down to think up a new fact, I'm like, all right, it can't be an animal fact. But then I'm like, there's so many really cool things about animals.
I like to think mine was more of a Switzerland fact.
Yeah, it's more about how the Switzerland folks are soft as frick and think about
I was about to
animals
say
way too
kind of
much
socialist
Yeah.
over there.
to mandate that you have to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it.
Not-
I feel like it's just like a social awareness. Like, hey, if you buy a guinea pig, we recommend you buy 2 because if you want your guinea pig to be happy, which
Well,
most people do want their guinea pigs to be happy.
So
If
I,
he's an introverted guinea pig,
Yeah, but it's
yeah, maybe.
you know.
an introvert for they both just are depressed alone.
Which I mean, I want to think that people shouldn't have dogs unless they have a yard for a dog to run in.
Yep.
I think that's animal cruelty if you get a dog and you don't have any.
Lives
if it's
in
just
your
cooped up,
one-room apartment.
lives in a cage or in a one-room apartment.
Mhm.
But I don't think anybody should own a guinea pig.
Really?
I think it's dumb.
I disagree with you
Okay, why?
because many friends of mine growing up have had guinea pigs, and okay, maybe I will agree with you on the point of I don't think people should own rodents as well.
I want to rephrase.
Okay.
I don't understand why anyone would own a guinea pig.
Fair enough.
Not that I don't think anyone should or shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the reason.
They're pretty cuddly.
For me,
No.
I agree. They are actually.
Curl up in your hand.
But listen, listen.
Gross. It's a rat.
No, it's not. One, it has no tail, and 2, it's fluffy,
All right.
and it's
fine.
got big eyes. Anyway, so there's lots of rodents out there you can own. You can get mice, like straight up mice.
Braden,
Why would you do that?
can you research if a guinea pig is a rodent?
It is a rodent.
Yeah.
What else is?
I said it's a rodent.
I know. I'm saying it's no. You said you called it a rat.
Are they in the research
They're
if they're in the
both
rat
rats.
family?
Well, just because it's a rodent doesn't mean a rat. You wouldn't call a capybara a rat. The thing is 110 pounds.
I guess
Well, that's a
they-
rodent,
it's-
right?
It is a rodent,
rodent.
yeah. But you wouldn't call it a rat.
Well, what classifies something as a rodent? What are the familiarities?
It's a family, like
Question.
it's the rodent family, like the
I think it has to do
canine
with the
family.
teeth.
the
Man,
teeth.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah.
Maybe teeth, and then good at chewing things.
Yeah.
I feel like you're being unnecessarily like
I got
bigoted towards rodents.
I don't know.
This is good. I was thinking we need to have something to disagree about more
Okay, yeah.
because the people need us to argue about something.
If you're just calling the Swiss soft, and you're like, but they're so cuddly.
No. Hey, me and David both called him cuddly, all right. Actually, he started with it. So if you're gonna go up to the cuddling thing, be accurate.
All right.
But anyway, let me finish my point.
I guess, man. I don't want to throw shade at David.
Let me finish my point.
All right.
If you're gonna get a rodent, the first rodent you should go for, or the only rodent I believe you should go for, is a guinea pig. Brandon, you can speak. What is it? Don't just give him the ammo.
They're not pigs.
Guinea pigs are not pigs at all.
Just despite popular belief.
Despite their name, guinea
Who believes
pigs.
they're pigs?
Guinea pigs are part of the rodent family, which also includes rats, mice, hamsters, squirrels, and beavers. Guinea pigs originated from South America, where they still live in the wild today. You imagine seeing a wild guinea pig? Would you just go up and grab it and cuddle it?
No, I'd be worried about it taking my finger off.
What I want to know is why they're called pigs.
Like a
They have
guinea
to
pig.
clarify that they're not pigs.
Yeah,
I love that Google
Google
clarifies it's not pigs.
David's a pig.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, all the families that have had guinea pigs growing up, they've always been really endearing to me. An endearing pet. They're kind of like got the benefits of a tiny dog with none of the hateful, aggravating qualities that little dogs often display. So, like, and also their loudest noise is a little squeak, whereas a little yappy dog will make you want to tear its head off. So I feel like if you're going to have a rodent-sized animal in the house, it might as well be a guinea pig instead of a chihuahua.
Or neither.
I mean, I will never own a chihuahua or a guinea pig. I'm just coming to the defense of the guinea pig and saying, like, it's a valuable pet. Like, I see why people get it. Oh, more so than if they get like a hamster. I don't understand that. That's just it's like diet mouse because it's got a tiny tail and it's stupid looking.
Hamster is diet mouse.
Yeah, like get a mouse. Don't get a hamster. Get a mouse. They're cooler. They got longer tails. They got big ears. Hamsters just look like. I'm not gonna say that.
Okay, I'm gonna say one more story and then we can go into having a different discussion. But
Right.
Back when I lived with Connor Long and we had the Conodon Variety Show, we talked about this on the Conodon Variety Show. But we.
Hold on. I feel like we need to have Connor on the show to tell this story.
No. I want to tell it right here.
All right.
I'm not going to tell the whole thing, but I'm just going to just a small part of the story, and then Connor can kind of tell the rest of it. Which it'll still have to be really filtered when Connor tells it. Because it was wild times back then.
Back before you guys were married.
But yeah, Connor had a ball python that lived in his room, and so we would buy mice to feed the python. But in the 4 months it lived with us, it never once ate a mouse. So we had this. Most time we would just go outside. If it didn't eat it, we'd just whack the mouse's head against the concrete and put it in the freezer because it would kill it instantly. That was the most humane way to do it. But we had this one mouse that we called Master Splinter that we bought like we called it the Pent Mouse.
The pet mouse.
We bought like a 2-story cage for it, loaded it up with food and everything, and we would put him live in the snake pen or whatever you want to call it. And if it survived through the night, then it got to spend a week in the Pent Mouse. And
Is that how we also got the name Master Splinter? Because he would survive?
That's also how the snake got the name Garfield, because it didn't eat mice. And so it would always earn its stay in the house because it would spend a week. And so we always imagined that it's just in there like beating up the snake, and that's why the snake doesn't eat mice, because it's just freaking scared of them.
It's
scared of
named
Master Splinter.
Hence the name Master Splinter, yeah. The rest of that story I'll save for Connor to tell.
Just wait for him to.
I feel like I've heard
to tell the story of the gang mice.
The gang mice, yeah.
mice. Master Splinter and the gang mice.
Oh, I can't wait. That'll be a good one.
All right. So, we would be remiss if we did not take this opportunity to interview our resident expert on.
I don't know about expert.
I mean, you're more. Me and Donovan are just like fans of concealed carry. You do it. You don't even conceal. You carry a gun, and it's part. You get paid for it, so at least professional.
Yeah.
And so. I'm curious to know what has been something about law enforcement going into it that you expected, like something about it that was difficult or maybe fun, like that you're like, okay, I expected this going in.
Yeah.
And then what was something that just took you off guard? So first off, before we get ahead of ourselves, how long have you been in the department?
So I've been a police officer sworn for 2 years, but 2.5 years in county academy.
Okay, awesome. So you're starting to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Are you classified as a rookie anymore? Were you ever classified?
I mean, there's not really like a specific classification. A lot of guys say like within 2 years, like you're a rookie, but it takes about 2 or 3 years to like really like, okay, I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Sure.
Even then, like you still, like my sergeant the other day, he's been a cop for like 20 plus years. And we showed up to a call and he was like, I've never seen this before. It was interesting. So like you still see new stuff every day. You learn all the time, but you're still a rookie at that point. So,
do you feel like the academy? How long was that? Did you say half a year?
It's 6 months.
Okay.
But some guys are in for almost a year.
Just
depending on what happens. Like you may get recycled. You like number of things could happen.
Sure.
So,
how well do you feel that prepared you to be on the streets?
fantastically.
Really?
But also not at all.
Sure. So in your it prepared you as good as education could.
As it could, yeah.
Because you're gonna need real life experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I'd say, so what it did was our academy and my department has its own academy, which is awesome because most departments in Georgia you go through JIPSTIC, which is like the minimum requirements to be a cop. I think it's like 3 months long,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a really easy academy. Well, I say easy. Some guys say it's really hard. I've never been through it, but basically you go through that and then you get hired on to a department.
Okay.
Well, our department is like, okay, we're going to hire you, then send you through our own academy so that not only are you learning laws, how to arrest people, you're also learning the tactics we use.
Gotcha. So they were like, okay, we'd rather train these potential officers ourselves rather than get them from this generic.
Yeah, because everyone does things a little different.
Yeah, and they can't control the standard of that school,
Exactly.
but they can control their own standard.
Exactly.
I like that. If I was going to work for a department, that would be what I'd look for.
Yeah.
I like that.
So the academy is really good at teaching you basically, here's how you try not to die, and here's the tactics you're going to use on the road. But then outside of that, it doesn't really teach you how, this is how I deal with the drunk dude that's, arguing with his wife.
The soft people skills.
Exactly. Exactly. Which a lot of that is just, you just have to learn that by throwing yourself into it.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much it was mostly just tactics and, tactical defense, shooting, driving, a little bit of laws, a little bit of scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as being a cop, the only thing you can really do to learn how to do that is just doing it.
Sure.
So
you got to get in and get experience.
Yeah.
So now we got that out of the way. What then have you, with 2 years now of experience? What then has been something where you're like, okay, yeah, like back to my original question, where you're like, that was 100%. I expected that, and it's how I imagined it. If anything, was that way. And then what came out of left field and was just like, oh my gosh, this is wild. Which is a really open-ended question.
It is open.
Feel free to answer it however you want.
So I'm going to say, as someone who's never been in the military before or been in like combat situations, being in a situation where you're like, okay, I'm about to have to go fight someone. They may have a gun. Like I may have to go shoot someone. Like
it's not a competitive fight. This is a potentially life or death fight.
It might be a life or death fight, and like. That's pretty eye-opening because it's like you really don't know how well you deal with stress until you actually like are in that situation. Like Mike Tyson says, like everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Right. And so it's so true, man. So my third day on the job, the area we work, it's got college, it's got this massive mall, it's got a bunch of highways that go through it, so we have a lot of traffic accidents. So I'm sitting there, my field training officer's in the driver's seat. I'm just in observation mode. So I'm pretty much just watching him work, like, okay, just give me a feel for how you do a day-to-day officer thing. We get a tone out on the radio. Tone out means like, hey, everyone shut up, listen to dispatch. Something bad's going down. So we get a tone out, and they're like, yeah, there's 3 masked gunmen in the mall. We got shots fired. People are running around all over the place.
I remember this.
It sounds like an active shooter.
Wow.
So we walk in. I think I'm going to see like a bloodbath, right? And we walk in. People are running around all over the place. There's chaos, but like there's no one shot. Okay. We don't hear gunshots.
Are you going in with rifles?
Yeah. So we roll up with a K9 unit. We were the first 2 that I know of that were there, at least on that side of the mall. And so we throw our stuff on, grab a rifle, and like we walk in. And, at first we're like, okay, what's going on? Because it's so easy to get tunnel vision. Tunnel vision's a real thing, man. Yeah. You get auditory exclusion. You get to where you're only focused on one thing, not like a big, I don't know, you're not aware of your surroundings.
No peripheral vision.
It's
like
it's
the tunnel vision is just like what it sounds like. It is looking down a tunnel.
Yeah. That's why, like, you watch a lot of, like, officer, body cam videos, and you're like, why is he doing that? It's like, well, because his heart rate's all the way up here. Yeah. His vision's like pierced in on what he's looking at. He's not focused on his surroundings. Yeah. So, and that comes with time. That comes with experience. A lot of guys figure out how to breathe through those situations, and so that's something I've had to learn a lot. But like, there was one part where we went up to where the call came from, and these women were in the closet, and we knocked on the door. We're like, hey, we're the police. Everything's okay. Just come out. We still don't know if there's a gunman, so like we're ready. But they come out and they're shaking, their eyes are wide. Like I've never seen like true terror until I saw that moment.
Wow.
But then so the mall is set up to where there's back hallways so that like employees and maintenance can go through there. So we had to go clear those back hallways. And my FTO was saying there's a part in the hallways. So when you clear with 2 people, you have to basically be the shield. So like the bullets have to go through me to get to my buddy.
Okay.
So I'm facing the threat. My buddy's behind me. I've got to get shot first before he gets shot.
Yeah.
Because I'm facing it.
Okay.
So there's a cross intersection, right? And so we come up on that. It's a really dangerous spot to clear. So you have to go in at the same time. And my FTO is saying, hey, are you ready? You're going to clear left. Mm-hmm. And he said it to me like 2 times, mm-hmm. 2 or 3 times. I didn't hear him.
Wow.
Just because I was so like, this is a stressful situation. I've never
mm-hmm.
been in this situation before. And like, it wasn't a big deal, but it was like, we just didn't know what was there.
Well, it was a bit, it turned out it wasn't a big deal, but
yeah.
But right and left,
we
there
thought
could
it
have
was
been a dude.
Yeah.
With a gun.
Yeah, but then he finally tapped my shoulder. He's like, hey, you need to look to the left. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's like, I didn't expect the whole tunnel vision they tell you about in the academy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I didn't expect it until like I was in that situation.
Wow.
I've gotten better. I've learned how to like breathe through it
mm-hmm.
and like just be calm.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do. If you're in any sort of emergency situation, just be calm.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a second, just breathe, look around, think about where you're at. Like, you know, they talk about WIN, which basically stands for what's important now. You know, ask yourself that question. But it turned out that it was just an armed robbery. These dudes came in, they decided to shoot the glass in the jewelry store.
Okay. So when people heard shots,
yeah, and
it wasn't shots fired in anger necessarily.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it was shots fired. They unloaded their clips into this counter of a jewelry store. But unbeknownst, clips, magazines, whatever you want to say. Does that irk you?
I like being a snob about it. It irks me when people without any gun actual knowledge says it's like a politician who's trying to pass gun laws says we're going to outlaw guns with 10-round clips, and I'm like, so guns with 10-round magazines are good?
Yeah.
You know, like because they don't know. I
know call it clips just because
I know you know, so it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, but
if anybody gets a pass, it's David.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
So they
I don't carry 10. I carry 16. So I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah, absolutely. They want us to carry more, I think.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, unbeknownst to them, that glass was bulletproof.
That's why they just kept.
Yep. The bullets are ricocheting, flying everywhere. I think somebody got hit in the ankle. I think that was the only injury.
Oh my god!
Well,
really?
That and the security guard, which wasn't supposed to be carrying a gun, he decided, I'm going to carry a gun today. And he gets behind a column and just starts shooting at these guys. I think he hit one of them in the stomach or something. So
that is scary.
So if you're going to decide to unlawfully carry, get training and be able to not just spray and pray.
Well, he was like a military veteran.
Okay, so he wasn't just like...
Yeah.
I had the mental image of some mall cop just...
Yeah, it wasn't just a mall cop. It was a security guy that's been in the military and stuff.
Okay, all right.
Well, in a situation like that, is it still... Like, are you still focusing on, like, okay, I need to make sure I'm not, like, flagging any civilians or anything?
Yeah.
Like, all those fundamentals are still in place. Are you trying to think about all those at that time? Or at that point, is it, like, autopilot?
So we had a whole week of active shooter training in the academy. And then every year we do a big scenario where, like, the whole precinct, they do it, like so our precinct goes, then another precinct goes and does it. And, like, the whole day is just focused on active shooter.
Yeah.
And you train. I think that if you're going to be in a church, I think something that churches need to start doing is, like, for the deacons that are carrying or the men the church that are carrying, they need to learn how to clear the church safely.
Yeah. In
case an active shooter does break out, because it takes time for the police to get there. You know, you think about it, somebody has to call 911, then dispatch has to, get all that information down, relay it to the police. Then the police who are far away from that have to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all that time for, people to lose lives, right? Yeah. So I think that people need to learn how to clear safely. So, like, when we clear, when we're walking around through a building, clearing halls, clearing rooms, our guns are down. We're in Sewell. It's different from if I'm going to clear a house that I know is empty that may have a burglar, then I'm punched out, right?
Right.
Because you don't know if that guy's waiting around the corner with a gun. So I'm clearing in Sewell. If I hear gunshots, then I'm running, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm not hearing gunshots, I'm Sewell. I'm not pointing at anyone, right?
So real quick for the uninitiated, what's Sewell?
It's I think it's Portuguese for south. It's just basically saying I'm keeping my gun down.
Mm-hmm.
just not pointing at anyone.
Mhm.
Because like we did this one drill during active shooter training where I was actually one of the victims, and basically there's this long hall, then a room that cuts to the left, and the gunman runs to the entrance of the room in the hall and just starts shooting, and then he runs into the room, and once he starts shooting, I start screaming. Right, I'm screaming bloody murder, like, oh my gosh, he shot me, like help, 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 and so everyone in my class, they would run around the corner. I'd say at least half of them shot me. I like ran
you
out.
shot me.
Yeah, I ran out and grabbed them, like, help me, and like they actually shot me point blank multiple times.
Oh, because they thought that you were coming after them.
Yeah.
Like they were just freaked out. Oh, this guy's coming after me. Boom.
Yeah, I had a lot of welts after that day.
Oh,
It's like it's like paintball pretty much.
Yeah.
And a pistol. It's really cool. Training rounds.
Point blank.
Yeah. Yeah,
Gosh, that was
one of the guys was pissed at me, but he put his hand up and shot his hand.
It's like, don't be
he's
pissed at
like
me.
dog cussing me. I'm like, that's your fault, buddy.
Yeah.
You shot
oh my
me.
gosh.
So
It's like if somebody comes running out of a hall saying they've been shot, are you just gonna smoke him?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think more people need to learn how to clear safely
Mm-hmm.
and come up with a game plan. Like, hey, if an active shooter breaks out, we need to know what the heck we're doing.
Especially if they're a part of a contingency plan for an active shooter.
Exactly.
Well, and I guess whenever you're off duty, like how does that change like how you think about like situations where like if you go into like a new building, are you still like aware and like looking for like potential exits or
so like
sizing people up?
yeah,
Or,
my wife doesn't like it as much, but like I try to sit close to the exit, so like I'll sit in the back at church, or at least to where like, okay, I can see the exit, and I kind of always had that in the back of my mind. Yeah, just stuff like that. Just be aware of entrances, exits. Be looking for suspicious people. Like, I mean, I hate like people think cops are judgmental, and like, but it's because like we're always ready because anything can happen.
yeah.
You know.
Especially when you work in a job that the job description is dealing with crappy people.
Yeah.
I imagine that will tune you in to looking for, like, you can call that judgmental, but like if your job is to deal with people that anybody would be judgmental towards, like it's not necessarily even judgmental at that point though. From a lot of you guys, it's just realism. Yeah,
pretty much.
But
I would say even in like civilian life, like being judgmental or just making sure it's not even like profiling, just like watching people and figuring out like, all right, why are their hands in their pockets or like stuff like that could save your life.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I'd say just come up with a game plan. You know, like for me, like if my family's there, then I'm going to be thinking about them first and foremost. Like, okay, I need to get them to safety. But obviously, every situation is different. Say if a gunman came in right now, I'd just shoot him, right? But you know, if I had time, if there's an exit right there, I'm going to get my family out, and then I'm going to handle the threat.
Yeah.
Which some people are different. I know you said on your podcast, like you're just focused on your family, like you're going to get them to safety.
Right. I'm not a law enforcement officer, and so if I'm like, I usually think of it in like a really public setting. Like if I'm in a Walmart, you know, gathering them and getting them out, I'm not going to go back in.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah. I know for me personally, I'd go in the threat.
Sure.
I'd want someone like you, like, okay, I have the opportunity, I'm going to end the threat now before he takes another life.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, I don't have a problem with people doing that. I think, especially in your position where it's your job, you know, and like a lot of shooting videos that I see where, you know, somebody's defending themselves or others, a lot of times they are off-duty officers. Like, and what's the policy there? If you're off duty, like, but you engaged in a situation, are you still covered under like you're still like considered an officer?
Yeah.
Acting in that situation.
You're still acting good faith.
Right. It's not like, okay, you've taken your uniform off and now you are legally only considered a defensive citizen. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different nuances. You do have to like identify yourself as a police officer. I think that helps. But I'm not really sure about like the legalities behind it, other than like if I'm like, say someone's like holding up a store or something, and like I try to arrest him by myself without a uniform on, and he decides to run from me. Well, if I've identified myself as a police officer, and like maybe even show my badge or like just say like, hey, I'm a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and he decides to either like fight me, shoot me, or like run away, he may or may not get charged with obstruction. I think that's the only real nuance there.
Okay,
Mm.
but it's not like you're going to have ramifications for intervening. Whereas it depends state to state. But like if Donnie and I tried to go, like we were not going to the store,
Yeah.
and we saw a store getting held up,
Mhm.
and we went and initiated contact, we could get charged with, and we killed the guy.
Mhm.
Maybe say we could get charged with murder because the defense attorney could say, well, your life wasn't in threat.
Yeah.
Whereas in your shoes, you have a legal obligation to intercede because that's okay. So it's not like you are then in our position when the uniform comes off.
Yeah.
There's an element of you're always on the clock.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. I think a big part as far as like civilian carry, something that they teach us is ability, opportunity, and jeopardy, which we're actually moving away from that because we can shoot people. Not that we're looking to shoot people, but we can shoot people for other reasons. Like if you just murdered someone, you're running out of a house.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be pointing the gun at anyone. You might just be running away. I can still shoot you because that's a fleeing forcible felony.
Is that a Georgia thing or is that across
That's
the board?
across the board. Yeah, as far as I know, that's across the board. You may get hemmed up in like a liberal state, but
Yeah.
Sure. Well, is that like? So I saw on YouTube, Donut Operator.
Mhm.
He recently covered 2 different shootings
Mhm.
Where people were pissed off because the officer shot the dude in the back.
Okay.
While he was fleeing,
Yeah.
but it was that situation. Like both of them were that situation where they had committed that. That's what they knew they had to stop the guy.
Yeah.
And so it was no longer we're trying to arrest this person. We're trying to stop them.
Yep.
And if stopping them means shooting them,
Mhm.
that's what's gonna. It's not just we can only shoot them when their gun comes up towards us.
Yeah. Because you think about somebody just committed armed robbery, somebody just raped someone, some heinous crime you can think of.
Yeah.
And they're running. A lot of times, what happens is they're trying to find a car. They're trying to find, they could run into a school, take everyone hostage. They could just start shooting people. They could run up to a car and be like, "Hey, get out of the car. I'm taking your car."
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I'm not going to. Then they shoot.
Boom.
Them, So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and that's another like difference between civilian and law enforcement, I guess, because we shot somebody running away from us, again, and maybe we get a lenient, attorney, like that would see why we did what we did, but you just gotta be careful if you're a self-defender.
Mm-hmm.
We're defenders first, like legally we're defenders first, not keepers of peace.
That's where that ability, opportunity, and jeopardy comes in. So. Basically, ability is like, okay, I have the means to cause physical damage to someone, like serious bodily harm. The dude has a baseball bat or a gun. Opportunity is like, if I have a baseball bat and I'm this close to you, I have the opportunity to hit you.
Yeah.
And jeopardy is like, I'm about to hit you. I'm about to kill you.
You're swinging back.
Exactly. Now, like, if that dude has a baseball bat and he's, 100 yards away, you don't have opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, for as far as self-defense, just think like, is someone's life an imminent danger?
Mm-hmm.
Can someone die right now in this situation?
Yeah.
So.
You about that scene in Point Break whenever he gets away and he's like, like just shooting in the sky.
Yeah.
Gonna be honest, I haven't seen.
I've never seen Point Break either.
That's okay.
I know the movie. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's.
Is that the original or the new one?
Because
I
don't think there's a new one.
They recently made a new one with I think it's the guy that plays Thor.
Chris Hemsworth?
I think yeah.
No,
No. There was one that came out, and it was Chris Hemsworth, I believe. Yeah, that's
Wait, really?
Yeah, and that's the one I saw.
We're talking about
geez,
the
Patrick
Keanu
Swayze,
Reeves.
right?
Yeah. Keanu
Okay, so
Reeves.
I knew there was an original. Yeah. Okay. So
It's a really good movie.
I want to watch the original because
I'm not going to recommend it to anybody morally.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough. Yeah, I can't recommend.
Research it. Look it up on the IMDb Parents Guide before you watch it.
Okay.
I have seen the movie. Don't recommend it to anybody.
Sexy
But
times. Sexy times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah, I figured. That's the same deal with the second with the Point Break. with a.
I see. I didn't even know they
Chris.
came out with a new one.
Yeah, I remember that one. It came out in like 2012 or something, and me and my friends watched it.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well, David, the last question that I have is what is something that you've learned as like in your time as a police officer that you do apply to your daily life and you think everybody else should also apply to their daily lives? It could be like a skill or like a lesson.
I think so. I think recently you said like be your own first responder.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important. I think more people, and this is kind of a rant, but I can't tell you how many like heinous car accidents I've rolled up on that I'm like, why did this person not stop and help?
Mm-hmm.
All these people are driving by, just like, minding their own business, like nothing's happening, and they obviously see, someone's on the side of the road, motorcycle accident, someone might be dying.
Mm.
Like, freaking go help them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't know if someone's called 911 or not.
Yeah.
So, and then just being prepared. Just think about like what situations are going on. Think in your mind, like make up scenarios, pretty much. Like if everyone goes to church.
Mental game plan, man.
Yeah, like
mental reps.
Exactly. So like when you're going to church on Sunday, like it's weird because it's like you want to worship, you want to be there, but you also need to be ready because anything could happen. You go in the store, go shopping.
Yeah.
You gotta be ready.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever walk into a convenience store without running through, like not necessarily just out of discipline, but every time I walk into a convenience store, I'm like, if this spot gets held up while I'm in here.
Yeah.
Almost every time, it's like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I better not use the chips as cover. That's just cover. Well, it's not concealment or concealment. It's not cover. It doesn't stop bullets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Learn laws too.
Yeah. If you're gonna go through the trouble of carrying a gun for self-defense, understand. I try and talk about this on the podcast whenever we bring it up, but it's like when I went through my class to certify to have a concealed carry license, which kind of bothers me because I'm like, who's the state to tell me what I need to do to carry? But I also think it's really valuable because I don't want just anybody just carrying because it is a force multiplier for sure. Yeah. Like this, somebody who is really physically unable can kill somebody else with a gun. So it's a really dangerous tool, and so I just wish that people would take their own initiative to get training. Mm-hmm. I wish the state didn't have to mandate it. Like if you're going to go through the trouble of carrying a gun, then take responsibility to get training with it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's besides the point. I remember when I was going through the class and the guy said, all right, we're here for 8 hours. There's no way in 8 hours I'm going to teach you guys to be good fundamental shooters because it's only 8 hours. That's on you to figure it out. But I can sit here and give you legal advice because he was a lawyer. And so that was his perspective during the whole training. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he talked about was you need to understand that even if your shoot is 100% clean, your life was in danger, and this person did have malicious intent. Mm. You're still looking at maybe a year at least of legal problems. You're probably going to spend some time in a jail cell, and you're going to have your gun taken. Which I think people don't think about a lot. It's like we think about it through the movie perspective of there's a threat, I'm the good guy, draw a gun, drop the bad guy. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go back to Starbucks. Yep. It's like or maybe people don't think that's actually how it goes necessarily, but that's a lot closer to that scenario than a year of legal battles and prison.
Even like a fight, not just with your gun. Like recently, we had a really bad fight at a gas station. And, this dude's bothering this guy's girlfriend. Mm-hmm. They get into an argument about it. And the dude that was bothering the girlfriend put his hands on the guy. Mm-hmm. And, the dude's back. He pushes him or something and backs away. Mm-hmm. Then the dude decides he's going to run up to the guy and try to punch him. Well, the guy...
After he pushes him?
Yeah.
So the boyfriend pushes this heckler.
And then he's backing away. Then the aggressor decides he's going to charge
after
him.
He gets pushed.
And so the guy defending his girlfriend rears back and clocks him in the face so hard. I mean, he hits the ground. Blood's going everywhere. He was knocked out when we got up to him. But, I mean, he still got charged.
Really?
Because, I mean, yeah, there's an argument there.
Mhm.
You know, we really don't know all the details completely.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go ahead and arrest him
Mhm.
just to play on the safe side,
Mhm.
and you know, the court will figure it out from there.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a great example right there. Like the guy could have been completely justified to break that dude's
Yeah.
face.
mhm.
You know, but it's like you don't know in that situation. And if there's anybody that showed up to a situation, I'd want it to be you,
Mhm.
right? But you're
Mhm.
still doing what I'm telling everybody else is the cops are going to do.
Yeah.
Is they're going to arrest you.
Mhm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean they think you did something wrong, but they got to do it. So if you're ever shooting somebody, this is what the guy told me, and he said, do not say a word to the police because you're going to be in shock and you don't know what you're going to say, and it can come and bite you in the butt in court
Mhm.
because you might say something completely unhinged.
Mhm.
You know, not because you mean it, but because you're in shock.
Oh yeah.
And then also comply. You know, put that gun down. And then this is my argument for why I say, like, if I'm in like a store and there's a shooting going on, I'm getting my family out. So the reason first that I'm getting my family out is because I physically want to protect them, right, and get them out of there. But then I have to consider if I go and re-engage, are the ensuing legal ramifications, is it going to inhibit my ability to lead and protect my family
Yeah.
down the road?
Yeah.
You know, and so I've already done my job in that capacity of protecting. And so at that point it becomes a legal hesitation,
Mhm.
which is frustrating because I want to be able to save lives.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to take myself out of the equation of being able to be there for my family down the road. So it's not like, you know, it's not like there's going to be things that stick, but I think about what Kyle Rittenhouse went through legally. You know, that dude probably lost years off his life with stress, you know, dealing with not just because of dealing with the court, but like how public it was.
Yeah.
Now, and that's a great situation where I always tell people who are interested in self-defense, while I do think that Kyle had a right to do what he did, like, use some common sense and don't show up with a long gun to that situation because there's a good chance those people I think one of the arguments of the prosecution was that he was showing up like because he had the gun. That's what caused the altercation to begin with. Which is like, okay, yeah, but he still had the right to defend himself. You know, so it's like, but I agree with that assessment where, you know, if you're not overtly like carrying a rifle, a battle rifle, then you're gonna, you know, be a better off. You know, like if Kyle Rittenhouse was a buddy of mine, you know, and he was talking about getting ready to gear up to go help protect this situation from the riots coming to his hometown, I'm like, I'd really caution against it.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, if he was a dad, he would have been, you know, he'd have financially potentially crippled his family, you know, and all that kind
or
of
lost
stuff.
his life.
Or been, you know, if he didn't get killed, you know, like if you, or he could have been, you know, charged and been in prison for 25 years, you know, so. So it's just, man, you got to be careful with that. And as much as I'm just like, man, buy body armor, buy guns, buy night vision, you know, be ready to smoke bad dudes. There's a real those are the fun topics to talk about.
Yeah, I think you got to be more disciplined of knowing when to use it than even how to use it.
Yeah.
Or as disciplined.
Yeah. So they need to go hand in hand. 43, 48. 48 minutes in. Oh, we're doing good. How's the best memory going? Are we doing good for memory on the phone? All right, good.
Yeah. Good. I would say like my mind with carrying guns is more about active shooter situations.
Sure.
You know, that's when it's like undoubtedly I'm going to use my firearm in this situation.
Yeah, because lots of people are getting killed.
Exactly. And so like my thing is like, yes, you got your family safe. But can you live with yourself with like, okay, I didn't want the legal ramifications, but there's people in here dying.
Right.
You know?
And that's a good point. Like if somebody's in there not just robbing the place, but they are in there with a gun killing people, I think, you know, who knows? You know, I may find myself in that situation and go, all right, I got to go back in.
Yep.
You know, so.
Yeah. Which I mean, I either way, you know, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. Who knows? You know, I pray that that's a situation I never come across, but I also pray that I'm ready to handle it if it comes down to it. You know, I don't want to me and Donovan talk about this a lot, where it's like, don't be so unprepared for that situation that comes up and you can't make a decision.
Exactly.
And so, you know, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to be a free-thinking individual who is ready to be proactive, then like you were saying, and we've said, mental reps, think about those situations, think about how you'll react in those situations, and then hard training. Like, understand your law and understand your gun.
I mean, it even goes all the way down to just how you dress when you leave the house. And, like, you know, that situation that I talked about our second or third episode, where the first thing going through my mind is like, all right, I have two heavy layers between me and my gun right now. And
like a sweatshirt and a jacket, right?
It was like a sweatshirt and a heavy jacket. I was like, I did not plan well for this. Just because, I mean, you never think anything's going to happen, but it's kind of like, and at some point you can only go so far with the preparedness, because I mean, it was like 20 degrees outside or something.
Right.
I mean, it's cold.
Also, the way you present yourself too is a big factor in like whether or not someone's willing to pick that fight with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we see that all the, like, you know, guys that come to work looking like soup sandwiches, like, you know, they just look out of shape. They look like they're not really, when they're on scene, they look like they're not really engaged. Like, they're not like, okay, I need to be aware, and like, you know,
their eyes aren't sharp.
Yeah, those are the people that get into fights, that have people run from them all the time. And I think civilians,
because they look at them and they go, I can outrun you.
Exactly. And the same, like if Donovan showed up and he was, you know, freaking 300 plus pounds and like, you know, just didn't look like a threat, or like not really a threat, but like looked like he would handle himself. You know, maybe that mugger would be like, okay, I could take this guy. I could take his money from him. So I think the way you present yourself too, is like your first line of defense.
I love that. I love that, because so, you know, the brand Freedom is a t-shirt company. I'm trying to remember what it's called. They're a really popular politically right-wing t-shirt manufacturer. They make lots of different shirts. It's like the ones you see with like Declaration of Independence script like on them and stuff, or like you know, the circle of stars and a rifle or something on the shoulder, or you know, they're really overtly like, I carry guns, and I will be honest, it really aggravates me when people wear those shirts.
I agree.
And I never wear them. Because I don't want to look like that guy. But at the same time, I don't want to look like a target either.
Exactly.
And so, like, I was given an example. A friend of mine, who's a family member, Uncle EJ, I love you, and I really appreciate the gifts. But he gave me about 8 of these shirts for Christmas. He ordered like a bunch of them, and they're all like really cool kind of shirts. But like, I was looking at every single one of them, going, I will never in my life wear one of these.
That's a target.
I was one, because I don't want to wear that so much on my sleeve, because then people see that shirt and they're going to put me in a category politically or ideologically, and or even like define my personality based off of that shirt. And I'd rather be able to interact with somebody in a conversation without them seeing those cues. And like, me wearing a flannel is already going to put me in a box in some people's minds, you know. So I'd rather. But then also, you got the other side of it, where I'm gonna wear clean clothes. You know, I'm gonna wear also maybe more aggressive-ish clothes. Like, I'm not gonna wear designer stuff. I'm gonna look like a tough target, like somebody where it's just like, no matter where I align politically, if you decide to fight me, I'm gonna look like I'm the tougher one. But I'm not gonna handle that. I'm not gonna be like you're saying. Like, I'm not gonna be that. I'm not going to project that in how I speak, but like, I'm going to walk purposefully. I'm going to have my head looking around. You know, if somebody was trying to find somebody, I'm going to try and take their wall. I want them to look at me and go, nope. You know, I think everybody should strive for that, where it's like
the velvet covered brick.
That's right, the velvet covered brick.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, it'll still knock you out. It'll still break teeth, but you can also pet it.
The bare minimum, I think, is just be capable and look capable.
Yeah, but don't look like an asshat.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk just real briefly before we wrap this up. You know, you've referenced training, and you've referenced drills and all that kind of stuff. me and Donovan are drill fiends, but especially Donovan, he's kind of pigeonholed himself into the bill drill, and so we need some new stuff. If you got one, we're gonna go out. Hey, if you listen to this on Spotify, we're gonna try and have a short shooting video go up on our YouTube channel, so you should check that out. But
Link in the description.
That's right. Do you have any drills where you're like, okay, these are some popular ones. This is the one that I went through with the course. It was really useful.
Mm-hmm.
Works through that.
There's a bunch of them. I think one of the best things, well, two really good things. One is using cover and movement. Learn the difference between cover and concealment. So like a wall with sheetrock that's not cover.
That's concealment.
Yeah, exactly.
Because bullets still go through it.
Exactly.
It's only meant to hide you.
Exactly. As opposed to like an engine block of a car, that's mostly cover. A lot of cars make very bad cover.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, bullets are going to go through them. There's only certain spots in the car that are going to stop rounds. So, it's like we did this one drill where the people just listening, this isn't going to help you at all. But basically, there's like trash cans set up like this, and we pretend like, okay, this is my cover.
Okay.
And so we'll just walk normally, and then they'll say like threat, and then there'll be a few targets, and you try to do like two to the chest, one to the head, and then you assess. You're still drawn down, but you assess your situation, have that situational awareness, and then you holster.
Break from your tunnel vision. You've engaged. Force yourself to break from tunnel vision. Look around you.
Yeah.
So it's like you can train that so that if you're in a situation where you have tunnel vision, you're like, okay, I know what I need to do now.
Yep.
I need to take a breath.
Yep. And then you just keep walking. And then like sometimes they'll say threat when you're like right here. And it's like, well, I need to be able to shoot and move to cover. That's like you can go to the range all you want with a target that moves out and you have that little lane. Like that's good. Like you want to be accurate, but also when you're in a shooting situation, like your heart rate's going to be up. You're going to want to move. I think they said like 80% of officers that didn't move when they were in a shooting situation ended up getting hit and dying. So like if you can move when you're getting shot at,
hard to kill.
Exactly. The other thing is do drills that get your heart rate up. Something I'm going to start doing this summer because I'll have the property back at my house to do that. Is just like running sprints, doing push-ups, doing something to get your heart rate up, and then go to the target and get on, and start shooting, and then keep running. And it's just good conditioning. It's good to practice that with that elevated heart rate. So
100%. One thing that I've been doing to practice, and this isn't necessarily elevated heart rate, but shooting an off-balance platform is after I go for a run after work every day, and then when I get home, I put my gun on, and then I will set a 2-minute timer, and I'll put it used to be 1 minute, but now I've pushed myself, so now it's 2 minutes. So I'll stand on one leg and start the timer, and then I'll do dry fire drills on that one leg the whole time.
I like that.
And I've got one little patch where if my iron sights are outside of that when I break the shot, then I don't count it, and I just keep going. So that's 2 minutes, and it's good. It's good just working balance, that kind of stuff. And then but to your point of just like finding ways to where you're not like it's really easy to go to the range. You stand on line, you square it up to the target like this. Just go.
Yeah,
Back to holster. And over and over again, it was just like, okay, but if you're in a situation where you draw a gun, I'm going to want to like draw and then move laterally or something, where it's like you're saying, officers apparently statistically who don't move get shot and die. And so shoot and move, man. If you can train. So we'll try and work. We'll try and work some of those drills. Awesome. Donnie, you got anything else?
No, thanks for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was a fun episode.
Stay safe out there. One of these days, I'm going to go down to the Atlanta area and do some shenanigans and get arrested by you.
We shall see.
I've been trying to figure out what is the bare minimum that I have to do to get arrested and get to ride in your cop car.
Yeah, but then not have many legal problems.
But not have many legal problems. Was it just like public indecency or something?
No.
No.
Okay.
Don't do that.
We'll figure it out. We'll
Do it by
talk after
school.
the show.
I can just show you my cop car. You don't have to do anything illegal.
I don't want to be
That's
I want to be in
fun.
your handcuffs.
Stop.
I got my handcuffs. You can...
All right. Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, everybody. So, it has come that time in the podcast. First off, I would like to tell everybody, drink water. You're probably dehydrated.
Who are we inviting on?
We are inviting on my old co-host from the Connor Don Variety Show, Connor Long.
Because we got to hear the rest of the story, Master Splinter and the gang mice.
And a lot of other stories.
Listen to the freaking episode, Connor.